Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you might change the way you see money forever. When I was young, I had exactly $1,000, not more, not less. And back then, that money felt like everything and nothing at the same time. I remember holding those bills in my hand thinking, is this all my life is worth? People around me were chasing quick success, fast money, shortcuts. But deep inside, I knew something they didn't. I knew that money is not something you earn once. It's something you learn to multiply. And that night, sitting alone, I made a decision that separated me from everyone else. The world will never tell you this truth, because if everyone understood it, no one would stay poor. You see, most people don't fail because they are unlucky. They fail because they are impatient. I watched people around me spend money the moment they got it, buying things they didn't need, trying to impress people who didn't care. And every time I saw that, I stayed quiet. Not because I had nothing to say, but because I was building something they couldn't see. Something slow, something invisible, but something powerful enough to change my entire life. That $1,000 became my first weapon, not for spending, but for learning. I didn't waste it chasing comfort. I used it to understand how money moves. I failed again and again. I lost money, I made mistakes, I doubted myself more times than I can count. But here's the difference. I never stopped. While others gave up after one failure, I kept going. Because I realized something very dangerous. Every mistake was making me stronger. And every lesson was getting me closer to something bigger than I ever imagined. Time is the only thing people waste more than money. Days turned into months. Months turned into years. And slowly, something started to change. My money was growing, not fast, not overnight, but consistently. And consistency is something most people can't handle. They want results today. They want success now, but they don't understand that real wealth takes time to build. I stayed patient, even when nothing exciting was happening, because I knew boring is where the real magic happens. One day, something happened that I will never forget. I checked my account, and for a moment, I thought it was a mistake. That $1,000 had turned into something much bigger. Not because I was lucky, not because I was special, but because I understood a rule that most people ignore. Money doesn't grow with effort alone. It grows with discipline. And at that moment, I realized I was no longer the same person who started with nothing. I had become someone who understood the game. But let me tell you something most people will never admit. The hardest part is not making money. It's staying consistent when nothing seems to be working. There were nights when I questioned everything. Nights when I looked at my progress and felt like I was moving nowhere. The world outside was loud. People showing off success, fast money, easy wins. And there I was, stuck in silence, building something that nobody could see. And in those moments, quitting felt easier than continuing. But I made a promise to myself that I would trust the process, even when the results were invisible. You see, the path to real wealth is lonely. Not because people don't want to join you, but because most people can't survive the journey. They want comfort. They want validation. They want quick results. But this path demands silence, patience, and sacrifice. I walked alone for years. No applause, no recognition, no support. Just me and my decisions. And slowly, that loneliness started to transform me. It made me stronger, sharper, more focused. Because when you have no one to rely on, you learn to rely on yourself. I didn't chase money. I chased knowledge. Because I realized something very few people understand. Money follows those who understand it. I studied everything I could: investments, markets, human behavior, fear, greed, because money is not just numbers, it's psychology. And once you understand how people think, how they react, how they make decisions, you start to see opportunities everywhere. While others saw risk, I saw potential. While others hesitated, I acted. And that difference changed everything. There were moments when everything collapsed, when the numbers went down, when it felt like I was losing everything I had built. And in those moments, fear becomes your biggest enemy. I saw people panic, selling everything, running away, accepting defeat. But I stayed calm, not because I wasn't scared, but because I was prepared. I understood that every fall is part of the rise. And instead of running, I stayed. I watched, I learned, and I waited. Because patience is what separates winners from everyone else. And then something changed forever. The same system that once tested me started rewarding me. The same patience that felt painful became my greatest strength. Money was no longer a problem. It was a tool I had learned to control. And that's when I realized the truth. Wealth is not about how much you earn. It's about who you become in the process. Because the man who started with $1,000 was gone. And in his place stood someone who had mastered the game. Let me tell you something dangerous. Success changes nothing if your mindset stays the same. When my money started growing, I saw people suddenly treating me differently. The same people who once ignored me now wanted to be close, but I didn't feel proud. I felt aware, because I understood money doesn't change people, it reveals them. And in that moment, I made another decision. I will never let money control me. I will control it. Because the moment money controls you, you lose everything you built. I still remember the voices, the laughter, the doubts they planted in my mind. You can't do it. You're not smart enough. You don't have connections. Those words stayed with me for years, not as pain, but as fuel. Because every time I felt tired, every time I wanted to stop, those voices reminded me why I started. And slowly, those same doubts became the reason I kept moving forward. Sometimes, your biggest enemies become your greatest motivation. Look around you. Everyone is busy, but very few are actually moving forward. People confuse movement with progress. They work all day, stay busy, feel tired, but never build anything real. I refuse to live like that. Every step I took had a purpose. Every decision I made was calculated, because time is limited, and once it's gone, it never comes back. So I stopped wasting it and started using it like my most valuable asset. There is a moment in life when you realize nobody is coming to save you. No luck, no miracle, no shortcut, just you and your choices. And that moment is where most people break. But for me, that moment became my turning point. Because I stopped waiting and started acting. I stopped hoping and started building. And once you reach that level, there is no going back. Everything I achieved started with a simple habit, thinking long term. While others were chasing quick wins, I was building systems. systems that would work for me, even when I wasn't working. Because working hard is not enough. You have to work smart. And smart work comes from clarity, knowing what to do, when to do it, and when to wait. That's a skill most people never learn. Money is like water. If you control the flow, it will keep growing. But if you let it slip, it disappears before you realize it. I learned to control that flow. Every dollar had a purpose. Nothing was random. Nothing was wasted. And over time, that control turned into power. Not loud power, not flashy, but silent, unstoppable power. Distractions are the biggest trap. I saw people wasting years chasing temporary happiness, parties, trends, showing off, while their future was slowly collapsing. I chose a different path. I sacrificed comfort, I ignored distractions, I stayed focused, because I knew what I was building was bigger than any temporary pleasure, and that sacrifice paid off. Life will test you, again and again. There will be chaos, uncertainty, moments when everything feels out of control. But your power lies in staying calm, because when you stay calm, you think clearly, and when you think clearly, you make better decisions. While others panic, you move forward, and that difference creates success. Now when I look back, I don't see money, I see decisions. Small decisions, repeated every single day. That's what built everything. Not luck, not talent, not shortcuts, just discipline, patience, and consistency. And that's the truth nobody wants to hear, because it's not easy, but it works. So if you're listening to me right now, remember this. You don't need more money. You need a better mindset, because $1,000 is enough if you know what you're doing. But even $1 million is nothing if you don't. The choice is yours. Stay where you are or become someone who understands